Welcome back to another video. Today we will be going on PCPartPicker once again, but today we're going to be making a little bit of a different build. Last time we did more of a budget to mid-range build. Today we're going to be doing a high-end build. So if you're looking to make a high-end build, this video will be for you. Alright, so now going over to PCPartPicker here, we're just going to click the little button in the middle, start your build. We're going to be faced with the exact same menu as we did in the previous video, where you start off with the CPU and then move your way down the list. Now, if we're gonna make the best of the best, there's really only one CPU out there right now, which is the Ryzen 7800X3D. This one in Canada prices is $568, quite expensive for a CPU. However, we will move it to the United States just for now, and then I'll switch it back to Canada at the end so you can see the difference in price here. So in the States, we're looking at about a $419 CPU, which is about equal to the 7700X in Canadian dollars. Now, with something like this, it is ideal to have either a beefy air cooler or at least a 2-fan, but likely a 3-fan AIO, just to help temperatures out. So in this case, we're going to click CPU cooler. We are going to scroll down and make sure that we click, let's just go 360 for the sake of this high-end build. And then it'll show you the most popular 360mm radiators that will fit with this CPU. So the Arctic is typically a good brand. NZXT is pretty overpriced. Anything around the $180 to maybe $150 is where you want to look. If you're just going for performance, you don't care about RGB, the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 is pretty good. However, the Corsair is quite nice as well. Very good looking AIO. So for the sake of this, let's just click the, you know what though? You know what? We could probably get away with the Arctic Liquid Freezer here for $90. We're gonna do that. I'm gonna click that, and the Ryzen 7800X3D is the best CPU on the market right now. Reason being, it has a higher L3 cache. That's really good for gaming. Apart from that, I really don't understand why, but by a long shot has the best performance for gaming. If you want to do anything else, like if you're doing video editing, any sort of rendering, anything like that, there could be better options out there, higher performance with different types of cores. That may be your option, but for this build, we're going to stick to a straight gaming build. So that being said, the motherboard is the next thing that we have to filter. With these, again, some people will spend more money on extra motherboard because they want more M.2 storage if they're doing video editing or something like that. Now they can have 3 to 4, maybe even 5 M.2 drives on their motherboard. But typically, if we're just making a gaming build, 2-3 slots for the M.2 drive is going to be more than okay. As well, we can change the capacity of the SSD that we put on there too. So again, it'll show us from most popular from the top. In this case, the Asus ROG Strix has been a pretty significant board. Very nice VRMs, have a lot of M.2 slots on it. It's quite a solid board. If you see a lot of builds on TikTok, all of that stuff, yada yada. So we're gonna go ahead and stick with the Asus ROG Strix here for $239. Not a bad price. It is a little bit more expensive. You could get away with a cheaper one for sure. Now in terms of memory, again, if all we're doing is gaming, 32 gigabytes is gonna be more than okay. So we're gonna again scroll down here, go 2x16, because with this AM5 board, with this Ryzen set, sticking with 2 sticks of RAM is the best way to go. So if you did want more, go 2x32 and don't do 4x16. We want a cast latency of probably 30 is most ideal, and then price low to high, silicon power, boom, good to go. If you wanted a better looking stick of RAM, or if you wanted RGB on it, there's a couple like the Team Group T-Force Delta here that have it. Again, you're looking at the 6000 mega transfers and 30 cast latency. It is the best ratio that fits with these boards. Anyways, this doesn't really matter. Performance is going to be pretty much identical across the board. Now in terms of storage, a lot of people stick with Samsung just because of the brand's reputation, and they're quite fast SSDs at that too. So let's just stick with a typical 2 terabyte 980 Pro. Awesome, good to go. $204, a little bit expensive, but hey. Faster SSDs doesn't really matter for gaming performance. However, again, if you are doing stuff like video rendering, doing any sort of editing where you're transferring files a lot, faster drives may be necessary, but for gaming, you're hardly going to notice the difference. Now for the most exciting part, the video card. The video card is probably the most important part of these builds, is it really determines, it's the number one thing that determines really what your FPS is going to be like at different frame rates. So for a high-end build like this, assuming we want to play in 4K with HDR or something like that, you know, get some single player games going, want to stick around that 50 to 100-ish frames per second. On the NVIDIA side, we're going to want at least a 4080 Super, which if we go price low to high, that'll run us at least $960, but typically $1,000. This will let us dabble in a bit of that 4K for some good performance. It'll slam 1440p, no problem. If you did have the money, obviously a 4090 is going to be your go-to at $1,700. Gigabyte Aero, 24 gigabytes of VRAM. You're going to be more than fine for the next 7-8 years probably with the 4090 here. But let's say we want to play it a little bit more conservative. We could go 4080 Super. Again, that's going to be around $500 or $960. But if we wanted to stick to the AMD side of things, we could go with the 7900 XTX for $900. So the XTX is the 4090 equivalent. It is a little bit less powerful, doesn't have the DLSS or ray tracing capabilities like the 4080 Super and the 4090. But if all you care about is raw rasterized performance, the 7900 XTX is going to be more than okay. Doesn't matter again which type of card you go with. If you want a better looking card, feel free. Power Color Hellhound seems to be pretty popular, the Red Devil as well. For the sake of this build, the difference doesn't really matter. Again, it's temperature, it's what fits in your case, yada yada yada. So we're going to stick with one of the $900 cards. In this case here, I'm going to go with the XFS Speedster Merc. Perfect. So now we're up to almost $2,000 right off the bat, and we just have the case and the power supply to go with. The case, if we're doing a high-end build, typically you're going to want to spend a little bit extra money on something that looks really nice. If you really don't care, so be it. Just get a case that has your proper 4 fans and you'll be good to go. That would be something like this Fantex XT Pro. There's a couple Lee & Lee, like the 216 down here. There's a 215 by Lee & Lee as well. Something that has at least the 2 massive fans in the front and 1 rear exhaust, or 3 fans in the front and 1 rear exhaust. Any of those combinations will work. We do have an ATX sized motherboard, so we're going to have to get an ATX sized case. In this sense, a lot of people like the NZXT cases, a lot of people like the Lee & Lee Vision. This one's nice, it's like a fish tank sort of case, but we've been sticking with black parts, so if we can find a nice black case like this NZXT one here, has 3 in the side, as you can see, 1 exhaust. Our AIO will sit right up top, and then there's room for, I believe, 140mm fans down below. So let's just go with this one here. And the power supply, you're gonna wanna take a look at this estimated wattage right here. Multiply that by 1.5, that's the typical rule of thumb. So we take, what is that, 640 divided by 2 is 320. So if we get a power supply that's 1000 watts, we should be good to go. Seasonic has been pretty good on the PSU cultist list. They rate power supplies by their reliability, and it's a much better way to rank them as opposed to this 800 plus or 80 plus gold, titanium, yada yada yada. That stuff doesn't really matter. So we'll stick with the Seasonic one. Nice price here, good company. And that would be that. So in US dollars, $2244 will be the final subtotal for this build. Fairly expensive, yes, but if you're looking to play games at that 4K, or if you're looking to play 1440p with super high refresh rate, playing any of those shooter games or fast movers, then you'll be more than fine with this build. You can save money if you were to save money on such a build. If you're only playing 4K, you could drop this CPU down to a 7600, be perfectly fine. However, if you will be playing a range of 1080p, 1440p, 4K, 7800 X3D is going to be perfectly fine for all of that. Again, you can save some money on a motherboard, probably around $100-ish, $80 to $100. The RAM, we went as cheap as you can. You could spend more money there if you really wanted. Obviously, you could spend more money or save more money getting rid of the Samsung 980 Pro and subbing it out for a slower drive. And then if you didn't need the full 7900 XTX, then the 7900 XT or GRE will be your friend. Anyways, that will conclude this video, and thank you for joining. See you in the next one.